Hello everyone, welcome to your English class. Today we will do the explanation of the television chocolate room. Dear students, this is my second video of this lesson. Let's continue with the explanation. Thank you, said Mr. Wonka. I shall now tell you how an ordinary television works. He continued. At one end, a picture is taken with a large camera, then the photograph is broken up into a million tiny pieces and shot up into the sky by electricity. How do they reach our television? Asked Charlie. Well, they hit the antenna on your roof and then flash down the wire on the back of the television set. When they reach inside, the tiny pieces jiggle and joggle till they fit together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. That's how the photograph appears on the screen. That isn't exactly how it works, Mike said. Now, here Mr. Wonka said thank you to Mike's father when he made his son quiet. And then he said, now I will tell you how the ordinary television works. He says that a picture is taken at one end through a big camera and then it is broken up into million pieces and shot up into the air by electricity. Then he also says that uh, then after reaching the sky uh, after reaching the sky by electricity, those small pieces of the photograph hit the antenna of people and on the roof, and then they flash on the wire which is connected to the television at the back, and then those tiny little pieces jiggle and joggle till they fit together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. He says that those pieces of puzzle, or you can say those pieces of photograph, try to set themselves in their proper place and then they appear as a photograph like a jigsaw puzzle, as we all have solved the jigsaw puzzles. Na? That's how. He says that after that only the photograph appears on the screen. But Mike says that isn't exactly how it works. He was not convinced how Mr. Wonka said how it appears on our television. You're a nice boy, Mr. Wonka said, but you talk too much. Now then, the very first time I saw an ordinary television working, I had an idea. If a photograph could be broken into millions of pieces and then put together, couldn't I also send a real bar of chocolate whizzing through the air in tiny pieces and then put the pieces together at the other end, all ready to be eaten? Impossible, said Mike TV. Now here, when Mike said that that isn't how the television works, Mr. Wonka said that you're a nice boy, but you talk too much. He said, Mr. Wonka continued, saying that when I saw first time how ordinary television works, I had an idea that why not send a chocolate bar into the air, whizzing through the air in tiny little pieces, and then put the pieces together at the other end, and then it will be all ready to be eaten, like the way he explained how a photograph appears on our television. In the same way, he said an idea came in my mind that why not send a real chocolate bar whizzing into the air, and then those tiny little pieces will uh, get their places together, and then it will become a real chocolate on the other hand, and it will be all ready to be eaten. Mike TV was not at all convinced. He said that it is impossible. Well, watch this, cried Mr. Wonka. Bring in the chocolate, please. He nodded. Immediately, 6 Oompa Loompas marched forward, carrying the most enormous bar of chocolate Charlie had ever seen. Now, here, when Mike TV showed that he was not convinced, he said that that's impossible. At that time, Mr. Wonka said, okay, that's fine. But after that, he gave an order to bring the chocolate in. Immediately, he saw six Oompa Loompas marching forward and carrying a big chocolate which Charlie had ever seen. Now, let's see what kind of chocolate they brought. See the picture? They brought a Wonka branded chocolate, and there are six Oompa Loompas carrying a big chocolate. As you can see that the chocolate was so big that they were carrying it on their shoulders. It is huge, Mr. Wonka explained, because whenever you send something by television, it always shrinks in size. When you photograph a big man, he is as tall as a pencil on the screen, isn't he? Now, Mr. Wonka said this bar of chocolate is so huge because whenever you send something on television, it shrinks in size. And for example, he gave an example of men, and he says that a very tall man, when he appears on a television, he looks like a pencil size, means he looks not more than not more than pencil size. He does not look too tall, or you can say that a tall person shrinks its size and becomes the size of a pencil. He waved to the Oompa Loompas. Here we go then. Mr. Wonka gave order to the Oompa Loompas that here we go. Then he suddenly shrieked, no, no, stop. For Mike TV was standing very close to the camera. Stand back, he warned. The rays coming out of it could break you up. Now, as you can see that at first Mr. Wonka gave the orders to start the process, but suddenly he said, no, 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 stop, stop. Why he stopped the Oompa Loompas in between? Because Mike TV was standing very close to the camera. He warned him to stay back. He warned him that if he will stand so close to the camera, the rays which will come out of it will break you up into a million tiny pieces in 1 second. That's why the Oompa Loompas are wearing space suits. The space suits protect them. Now, this is why Mr. Wonka stopped the Oompa Loompas from doing the process, because Mike TV was standing very close to it. He told him that if he will not stand back, the rays which were coming from the camera will break him into pieces in a second. The spacesuit which the Oompa Loompas are wearing protects them from these rays. TV moved away as one Oompa Loompa pulled a large switch down. There was a blinding flash. The chocolate is gone, shouted Grandpa Joe, waving his arms. He was quite right. The whole enormous bar of chocolate had disappeared completely. Now, as one of the Oompa Loompas pulled the large switch down to start the camera, there was a blinding flash. Blinding flash means an extremely bright burst of light when a camera button is pressed. There was a very bright light which came all of a sudden as a flash. You all must have seen whenever you click pictures with your flash on, a bright light comes from the camera or your cell phone. In the same way, the light came from the enormous size camera, and Grandpa Joe waved his arm and saw that the chocolate, after seeing the chocolate, is gone. Grandpa Joe waved his arm and said he was quite right. The whole enormous bar of chocolate has disappeared completely. It's on its way, cried Mr. Wonka. He dashed over to the other end of the room where the last television set was standing, and the others followed him. Here it comes, he cried. Now, in this para, Mr. Wonka said that the chocolate is on its way. He dashed towards the other end of the room. Dashed means ran quickly towards the other of the end of the room, in front of the last television set, and said, and the others followed him. He said, "Here it comes." Mr. Wonka said that the chocolate is coming on its screen. Now that's all for today. Thank you and have a good day.